Hey there, Virgo, it's Keaghan. Welcome to your general energy reading for December 15th through the 22nd. This reading is going to be good for Virgo Sun, Moon, Venus, and Rising signs. Crosswatchers, you're welcome to watch. Just keep in mind this is an energy reading, so I really am focusing in pretty much on Virgo. However, what I'm truly focusing into when I sit down to do the readings would be the people who watch this. So if you choose to watch this video, just keep in mind the energy might actually resonate with you and what you are going through. So just keep that in mind. Energies can be reversed. If this resonates with you and you're not a Virgo, you're just cross-watching this, it's simply because when I sat down to do the filming, I am saying whoever watches the video is who I'm getting the messages for. So I have gone ahead, shuffled the deck, pulled cards off the top, filled in the spots here. You can see what each of these cards is going to represent. I'm just shuffling now that I'm talking to you guys in your energy. I'm going to give this deck a couple of cuts. Then I'll pull a card off the bottom of the deck to represent your overall energy there in the center. And then I have my Oracle deck, which I'm also going to use to get 2 guidance cards for you guys. I'll pull right off the bottom here. There's your overall energy. Okay. And then this couple of shuffles and we'll do the top and bottom cards here. Okay, Virgo, you guys have stressed me out the past couple of readings, I'm not gonna lie. Pull from the bottom of the deck here and right off the top. We're good to go. So Virgos, let's hope that this reading is a little bit less stressful. I actually was in sweats, like not wearing sweatpants. I was sweaty after your last reading last week. So, okay. I will remind you guys what each of these cards represents, just in case you don't have a photographic memory. We're starting here with what's in your way, and then I'll move across. But we're going to start here with this Oracle. First, when I think I've surrendered, I surrender more. Very, very challenging for you guys. Surrendering can be quite challenging for Virgos, just in general. Surrendering requires you to realize that you don't have control over very much in life other than yourself and how you choose to react to things. But in terms of being able to control things or really have any say in other people or how situations play out, the truth of the situation is we are very limited in the amount of control that we truly have. Now, we can convince ourselves in our minds that we have control over things when we, don't. And sometimes that's a way that we can make ourselves feel a little bit less stressed out about it. But I think this card is definitely saying for you, Virgo, it is time to realize that you have to surrender this. This feels like a situation in which you've been trying different angles and trying to get something to work or trying to get something to stick, but it's just not working out. And sometimes in those situations where despite our best efforts, despite the amount of energy we're putting into it or how much we want something to happen, it just doesn't align. And in those situations, it's typically the universe saying, this isn't for you, and you're not seeing that it's not for you, that this isn't good for you, so I'm just going to prevent it. I'm going to keep getting in the way until you walk away from this or you turn your focus onto something else. So that's the type of vibe I'm getting here when it's saying, if you think you've surrendered a situation, you still need to surrender it more. You still need to get out of the way, relinquish control. Very often how this manifests for people is being stuck to a very specific outcome. Okay, so instead of saying to the universe, I want to find someone who I have a great relationship with, who makes me laugh, who I feel safe and secure with, who, I have things in common, and we go, instead of being very specific about what we want, we get stuck in I want this person to work out. And we're eliminating every other person on the planet, every potential for a connection. And we're not even being specific about what it is that we want. We're basically just saying I don't want this person to not talk to me anymore. I want them to speak. Okay, well, let's aim higher than just getting somebody to speak to us or feeling like we're worthwhile to even return a text. Okay, let's raise that up a little bit. Let's surrender what it is we think is best for us and really instead start to allow ourselves to trust that if we want something good, if we want something healthy, if we want, even a new job, if we want those changes, we can attract them in. Okay, but we have to be willing to let them appear in the way that they are best for us, show up when they are in the best timing. Okay, so let's see what's in your way from being able to be there, Virgo. So you have the Ten of Pentacles here coming out reversed. Now, um, traditionally the Pentacles are going to really speak to career and money. So I'm going to give you that, interpretation, and then I'll expand a little bit about it, just in terms of general connections and relationships. The Ten of Pentacles reversed represents someone who has really been captivated by the dark aspects of having money. So this might be someone who is obsessed with money, or they're working so much that they're sacrificing other parts of their lives. It can also point to something that is not a wise investment, something that is going to fail or lead to a loss financially. Okay. Now, in a less traditional format, if you think about Pentacles as representing like a stable relationship, a stable home, then the Ten of Pentacles represents that not being the case. So what is in your way here, what I'm feeling mostly, Virgo, is actually that second interpretation. Okay. Now, for some of you, you might be working too hard and you don't have room to have somebody come in because, like, what are you going to do? Talk to them once a month? Like, for some of you, this is the thing that's in your way. If that resonates, take it. For most of you, what I feel, though, is that situations from the past in which you did not have stable connections, did not have stable relationships, for some of you, this is even like your childhood upbringing. The relationship between your parents or your home life wasn't stable. This is in your way. Okay, so it could just be relationships that you've had personally, realizing that those things have things in common. You're starting to see patterns, but that's really what's blocking you from being able to surrender and have whatever it is that you're wanting to come in. Because in your mind, you have a fear that relationships have all these potential things where they can go wrong. That's true. That's just life. That is very true for relationships. So that's factual, but you can't allow that to become such an overwhelming focus and have so much fear or anxiety around a relationship, getting into a relationship that doesn't go well, or your relationship suddenly developing problems. That energy that you're putting into that is really what starts to manifest those issues. Okay, let's take a look here. This is what's on your mind. You have the Seven of Pentacles here coming out upright. So Seven of Pentacles represents a couple of things. In terms of this being on your mind, this is you actually thinking about what you want long term, thinking about situations that have come to an end, and processing why those things weren't able to go the distance, why they needed to close out. Because when you approach something from that perspective, Virgo, where you look at a situation, an experience, a relationship, whatever it is, and you get to the point where you say, okay, you know what, that needed to end. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't working. I can at least come to grips that, it was bad and it needed to end. Okay, so then you can look at it and say, okay, well, why was it not healthy? What were the issues there? Okay, well, we weren't able to communicate. We weren't able to see eye to eye. We had different ideas around commitment. We had different ideas around what we wanted our family structure to look like. In that situation where you're realizing why it wasn't something that could go long term, what's on your mind is using that information so that when you go into the next relationship, you go into the next connection, you can make it be stable by knowing what it is that you require in order for something to be sustainable for you. To be a situation where you're willing to keep working at it and investing your time. There has to be something you can measure so that you can say, okay, I'm dealing with this, I'm staying in this, I'm working through these problems with this person because I can see the long-term potential, and I know that it's something that's sustainable and can ultimately be leading towards something that's very stable instead of unstable. So healing this, right? Like your mind, what you're thinking about is really in line to working on and healing the thing that's represented in your way, because you're unraveling these unhealthy examples, these unstable examples, and you're focusing instead on developing in your mind a clear checklist about what makes it healthy, what makes it non-toxic, what makes it something that has a life that can make it through the bumps and challenges of relationships. Let's see what's going on in your heart. You have the Two of Pentacles here coming out upright. So again, the Two of Pentacles represents that juggling energy. And I think in your heart, you're really, what you're dealing with and struggling with is really around this surrender versus control, right? If you see it coming right next to it, I love this because there's a butterfly that right next to this flower. So for me as a reader, just for those of you who are interested, seeing something like this visually, where I've used two different decks, right? But something comes out, and it's what's in your heart, and this is the advice, and the advice was to surrender and surrender more. And then this butterfly, right? Like, just it makes sense next to the flower. Okay, so these two cards feel very connected to me. So when I say it's this card represents notion of juggling, so there's something in your heart, you're conflicted, you have a conflict going on. Okay, what is that around? It's so connected to this. Even visually, the cards are telling me that. So what I know here is that this issue within your heart, this back and forth, and this inability to really like figure it out yet, and trying to get closer to figuring it out, is around how to surrender more when you also have such a natural desire to feel like you're in control. How can you give up control because you know that's what's going to be best for you, because you realize you're blocking things off from coming in because you're putting up all these like restrictions. When you're trying to control things, you're saying like, okay, well, make me happy, make me really feel safe and secure, but don't do any of these things. So then the universe is like, okay, well, I guess maybe that way, that's not the way I would have done it, that's not the easiest way or the best way, but it fits your criteria. Because the universe will let us have like control, but in a way, control is really just limitation. Control's blocking things from coming into you. So we really don't want to be in control. We want to surrender and hold our own energy in being in a space that's drawn towards good and optimism and positive things and pulling in happiness and joy. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So let's take a look here. This is what's guiding you through the week. You have the Five of Swords here coming out upright. This is very interesting. So Five of Swords for me as a card represents, I very often say this in readings, so you've probably heard me say it before, but it's a situation where like two people are looking at a situation and one person is like, that thing's on fire, and the other person says that thing's frozen. And from an outside observer, you're thinking, how are these two people looking at the same thing and seeing such things that are total opposites? But that's the energy of this. It's a notion where it's such intense conflict, and it's disagreeing on everything, and it's there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. It's a very black and white type of thinking, and it's interesting because this is what you are trying to be guided by. Now, do I feel like that's a wise place? No. My own personal opinion as a reader and also as a water sign is I don't think that's good. But the cards are saying this is what's guiding you this week. Now, it could just be that you're actually feeling these things and you're connecting to this energy. Maybe there are past experiences here connected to this, right? This Ten of Pentacles reversed. It could just be that you're actually you're being forced to deal with these things. You're being forced to look at them. You're being forced to actually admit that they're there, and that's why it's guiding you. And if that's the case, and that is good energy. But I also feel like this is that type of thinking where it's like, I'm either in control or I'm out of control. Well, you can relinquish trying to control things and still be in control of your life, because you're in control by keeping your energy up and your vibration high and focusing your mind on bringing good things in. That's having control. You're controlling yourself. You're controlling your feelings, your thoughts, and your emotions. That's where you really do truly have control. But you have to surrender everything else. You have to give up control around the when and how and who. You have to trust that you're going to pull in the absolute best possible towards you. Okay? Let's take a look at the overall energy for this week. You have the Mother of Pentacles. This is the Queen of Pentacles. Very interesting energy here coming out. We have this Ten of Pentacles reversed, and then the energy for you this week is really kind of the feminine energy. This would be, again, the Queen of Pentacles. So the Queen of Pentacles is upright. So that would be the queen that would actually have the Ten of Pentacles upright. That really stable, long-term, successful type of commitment. So what's very interesting here for me is if I look at this, if you can manage to surrender Virgo, you can deal with this black and white thinking. You can start to relinquish control. You can start to heal. You can do this clearing out of things, really redefining what is something that is long-term successful, what that means to you. This energy is there supporting this growth, because the energy that's trying to come into you, the overall energy for the week, is of that person who knows what they want. They're able to make it work. They're able to deal with the bumps. They don't get fixated on the bad. They're focused on the good. And they're just enjoying being in something that is nurturing and caring and stable. Okay? Very good energy here. Let's take a look at what's going to heal for you this week. So here we have the Sun of Pentacles. This will be the Knight of Pentacles. It's come out reversed here. So, this card actually comes out a lot for you guys in my readings, I think. This particular Knight, when it is reversed, can represent that notion of perfectionism and being stuck in going after trying to be perfect, or trying to find the perfect thing, the perfect relationship, the perfect person. And, I've said this so many times, but that doesn't exist, right? Like, no one is perfect. Perfect is not something that is attainable. And when we're going for it, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, really. Okay. So if that can heal for you this week, I've made a joke. I'm just going to say it here as well. I've literally bumped this every video so far that I've been recording. So I'm convinced I'm going to accidentally bump it in every 12 videos. So far I'm batting 100%. So, and I think it always happens on this card too. So weird. Okay. Sidebar. If this can heal for you, I'm super happy. It's almost like you guys distracted me energetically. They're like, don't talk about this. But yeah, letting yourself off the hook around trying to be perfect or have things work out in a perfect way, or like whatever, like that is another way of like limiting what it can be. What's perfect for you might very well look different than what you currently think would be perfect for you. And only until you have the experience of having that thing will you realize how perfect it is. But if you're convinced it needs to look a certain way and it's not, that's ultimately not what is best for you, you're never going to allow that thing to come in. You're never going to allow that that shockingly perfect thing that looks totally different than how you thought it would to ever come into your energy, into your field, because you're actively keeping it away. Because you're saying it needs to look like this and happen by this time, and it needs to be within these parameters, and it can't include these things, and you're just limiting what the universe is able to do for you. So let's take a look here. This is the lesson that you learned this week. So you have the Four of Swords here coming out reversed. Now, the Four of Swords represents a place of being stuck, being exhausted, really being so deep into your head and into your thoughts that it's sort of like all-consuming. Now, the lesson learned is around that. I think you do realize both of these cards are sort of saying the same thing. I'm really hopeful here, Virgo, that if you're still listening to me, then what I'm getting from you energetically is that you are realizing that you have to be able to not get yourself stuck in this looking at past failures and trying to, instead of just having them be lessons that you learn and things that you mitigate and deal with in relationships. It's almost like you've taken a look at these bad examples of unstable, unhealthy relationships, and you've said, okay, well, a perfect relationship is one that doesn't have any of that in it. That's not true. All relationships will have some of this in them. All relationships. All relationships are going to have areas where the two people are going to struggle to communicate, or they don't see eye to eye, or they don't understand each other fully. And it requires that they figure out compromise, that they figure out how to just deal with it, right? Or they figure out how to try to meet in the middle in a way, or one person maybe sees the other perspective and they then see eye to eye, right? But all relationships are going to have challenges. So I feel like you're realizing that. You're realizing that you've been holding yourself back and keeping things away from you because you've been trying to have something that feels perfect, when really what you should just be looking at is something that feels like it's stable and it's sustainable. That when something happens and the situations are not ideal and we're feeling heavy energy, or we're feeling anxious, or we're feeling scared, or we're feeling angry, that this relationship and this person, there's a way of working through that, of having the experience of it, but having it not be something that derails the entire relationship. So this is where you're going to gain clarity. Temperance. I love this deck, by the way. I'm so super excited about this deck. I have the box here. I can show you guys. So it's the Wild Unknown Tarot. I bought this myself. It's not like any sort of sponsored thing or anything, but I love this deck. The readings that I've been doing with it, I've had so much fun with them, and it's perfect, right? I mean, The clarity that you're gaining is what I've been talking about throughout this. It's realizing that things aren't necessarily black and white. There's so much gray in between. There's so much of a middle ground, and you're realizing, throughout this whole thing, there's this dynamic of you really being at odds and struggling with this like either or mindset that Virgo can have sometimes, where it's very much like it's either good or it's bad. Okay, well maybe it's a little bit of both, right? But that's unsettling for us to realize that things can be both good and bad. That things can be, we can have both really extreme happiness and really, really deep sorrow around the same person. But that's just how life is. Okay, so you're really going to gain clarity on the notion of temperance, and that middle ground, and developing patience and realizing maybe it's not going to look like how I thought it would. Maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. Maybe it's going to come in a completely different and unexpected way. But I'm going to trust in it. I'm going to just see what happens if I turn off some of the worry, I release some of the control, I surrender, and I just see what happens. Okay? That would be awesome if that's the clarity that you get. Now let's take a look at what to take with you this week. So here, this is the eight. Yeah, this is the Eight of Pentacles. I haven't actually seen that card pop out, so that's the first time seeing the illustration. So the Eight of Pentacles is come out reversed here, and very interesting. It's another card that's about the notion of perfection, but it's also So I'm going to talk about it this way first. So if this card were upright, I'll show it to you here. This just represents like skill development or a mastery of some sort. It's a card that's very often associated with like the apprentice type of energy, right? So you can see here this notion of like work and effort being put in, and this, this web of developing something. Okay. Now when it's reversed, it can represent just realizing our energy is not directed in the right path. But what I really get here more than anything is sort of that notion of like trying to weave this perfect web, trying to get everything right, having like it's just that energy. And it's interesting because in terms of taking something with you, it's realizing all of this, right? That this is something that you do, and it's something that causes its own unique set of problems because it eliminates potential, it eliminates possibilities. And I do think that you're starting to realize that, and you're really going to strive to learn the lessons and get clear thinking around trying to see the shades of gray, trying to realize that maybe surrendering that control a little bit actually could be a good thing for you, and trusting in that and experimenting with it and letting yourself be surprised. Last card here, this is representative of just advice or guidance towards the end of the week as you're closing things out. This is actually the name of this oracle deck as well. The universe has my back, or the universe has your back. But this card, when it comes out, it's it's an indication that the universe is really, really working with you and trying to give you guidance and insight. But you have to be able to hear it. You have to be able to listen, and you also have to just be able to surrender. Kicking the week off is in this notion of surrendering more, surrendering more. And by doing that, Virgo, by the end of the week, you're realizing, hey, the more I surrender, the easier things get, the more things start to work out, the more opportunities are presented, the more choices I have, so I can look at things and make the absolute best decision because I'm not eliminating things before they even present themselves to me, right? Just because something or someone presents themselves to you doesn't mean you have to take it, but it means you have the choice of at least looking at it and deciding if it's something that you want to invest in or not. So don't cut those opportunities off before you can even figure out what they are. Okay, so Virgos, let me know what you thought about this reading. Let me know what you thought about the style. If it resonated with you, please leave a comment, give the video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. I will also put links to your December readings that I've already done for week 1 and 2 up here. In case you haven't seen them, you can just click through and watch them. And I will see you guys next week for the final reading for Virgo for this year. Crazy to think December is almost over. Okay. Bye, guys.